Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the MIT Sloan Veterans webcast. My name is Andy Scott. I'm one of the co-presidents of the MIT Sloan Veterans Association for 2017. And we have a group of students here just to talk about their experiences as veterans here at Sloan. To give you a little background about myself, I was in the Army for a long time. I started out as a combat engineer officer and later attended law school and was an Army lawyer for a number of years. I'm going to go around the room just slightly and have everybody introduce themselves and tell us, what service you come from, what your background is, and where you're going to be working this summer if you know. I will be working for McKinsey in Washington, D.C. All right, take it away.
Hi everyone, I'm Barrett. I'm a first year here at Sloan. Before coming to Sloan, I was a nuclear submarine officer in the Navy for 5 years. This summer, I'm going to be going to Huntsville, Alabama to work for Boeing and NASA on the space launch system. So pretty excited about that. Unfortunately, won't be able to stay too long today, but hi.
I'm Ozzy Ortiz. I was in the Air Force for 7 years, working on satellites and space systems out at LA Air Force Base in Denver. This summer, going to go into consulting out in New York City. So excited to try it out and see how it goes.
Hi everybody, my name is Sean Lemke. I'm a first-year MBA student. Before Sloan, I was in the Marine Corps for 5 years as an enlisted SIGINR. I spent 2 years as a private contractor after I got out, and this summer I'll be working for Ford Motor Company as a global strategist.
Hi everyone, Randy Cavacasal. I spent 4 years in the Army as a logistics officer, mostly in Japan and Afghanistan. This summer I'll be splitting time between my own data gathering company that I've begun here, and also with a Japanese whiskey company in Tokyo.
Hi everybody, I'm Kate Sullivan. I'm a second year MBA here at Sloan. I am an active duty Coast Guard officer, and after I'm done here in just a couple weeks, I'm going to be going to Elizabeth City, North Carolina to work at the Coast Guard Aviation Logistics Center, specifically doing risk management and audit work.
All right, well, we're going to get things started. I'm going to be off camera most of the time. And feel free to type in your questions whenever you have them, and we'll be glad to answer them. But until we get some questions started, I'd like to begin with Barrett on the end. Barrett, you are a member not only of the MBA class, but you're also in the MIT Sloan Leaders for Global Operations program. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about what your experience has been as an LGO coming from the military here at Sloan.
Sure, absolutely. So Leaders for Global Operations program, for those of you who don't know, it is a dual degree program. So you're integrated into the regular Sloan program doing your MBA, but at the same time, you're also pursuing a master's in engineering in whichever engineering field you choose. So it's a pretty time-intensive program, but it's been very rewarding so far. The biggest challenge, I think, is just time management, figuring out where to allot your time between classes and extracurriculars. But it's been an excellent opportunity so far. So for any of you that have a background in engineering, not necessarily professional experience in it, myself coming from the Navy, I wasn't doing any design work or anything like that. But if you have a undergraduate degree in math, science, engineering, it's definitely a program to look into. It's a good deal. It's still only 2 years, and you get 2 degrees out of it. So if anyone has any specific questions about it, definitely feel free to reach out to me, and I can put you in contact with some people or just come and visit.
Thanks, Barrett. I'd like to begin with a question just for the group generally. MIT Sloan has a pretty diverse and collaborative community across a variety of dimensions: academic, background, careers, international, ethnic, racial, gender, and different perspectives. Would you describe the community and how would you describe the community and culture of MIT Sloan? Does anybody want to take that question to start with?
I can kick us off.
Sure, thanks.
So I would say that the culture here at Sloan is incredibly collaborative, incredibly welcoming, and just I think a great place where no matter what, like Andy said, you bring to the table, you truly feel like you belong here and like your contribution is valued. Anybody else want to add on to that?
Yeah, definitely. So Sloan as a whole, I would say, is very close-knit. But the real value that I think coming to MIT has is having such a broad range of experience and expertise in a lot of different fields here. So the engineering school, for example, is top of the world in a lot of different departments. So Sloan is very close with the rest of MIT as a whole. So I've been working on several different projects over the year. with people across campus. So that's one of the things that I've enjoyed most about coming to Sloan, is being able to be around such talent both at Sloan and at the engineering school.
And to kind of jump on that diversity of backgrounds, I really feel like coming in here, I was scared I was coming from a non-traditional background. When in reality, everyone's non-traditional, it seems like. So everyone has a unique background that they bring to the table, and their perspectives are valued. And I think that was a really big part of what makes Sloan Sloan, is that we're all different, really.
Yeah, I'd like to add, even though we are different with our backgrounds, we all share a similar trait in that we work very hard. And I think the people that have been admitted to the program have all worked hard to get here, and that hard work has continued since the year started. It's very obvious to me that all of my classmates want to succeed, and they want to see me succeed, and I want to see them succeed. And that comes through when asking people for maybe assistance with some type of project you're working on, or input on a startup idea you may have, or even help with homework or studying, or anything to do with that. To Kate's point, the collaborative nature comes through with Sloanies helping Sloanies. I'm sure you've read that on the website.
That's great. Hey, I don't know if you've noticed, but we have a question from Anthony. The question is, how much interaction do you have with students at other schools at MIT in classes and in clubs?
I can talk a little bit about this. So I think especially in the entrepreneurship specialty at MIT, there's a really good push to bring in folks from the engineering school as well. So I'm in a class called New Enterprises. The company I started is with partnership with an undergraduate engineering student. We get a lot of contact with all fields of undergraduates as well. That program has been great, and really pulling out interaction between myself and all the different parts of the campus on MIT.
Thanks. Oh, we now have a question from John, which I'm actually going to jump back on camera for a second because it's a perfect question for me to ask. The question is what made you decide on the conventional MBA instead of the Sloan Fellows program? It's a great question for me because I'm a bit of an older student, so I probably fit better into the age bracket of the Sloan Fellows as opposed to the full-time MBAs. And I looked seriously at the Sloan Fellows program. The reason that I chose the full-time MBA is because the Sloan Fellows program is in many ways more geared toward people who come from a business background, who bring a lot of business skills with them. And coming from the Army, although I had a very broad educational base and a lot of experiences, I really felt like the full, robust MBA experience over 2 years was a better fit for me. Now, that being said, we do have veterans in the Sloan Fellows program. And if that program, if you think that's right for you, a one-year program at Sloan, I know a lot of people get a lot out of it. And we'd be happy to talk, more with you about Sloan Fellows offline. Does anybody else have anything to add about why they chose the full-time MBA over, any one of Sloan's other offerings, like the MPhil degree or Sloan Fellows or the executive MBA program?
MBA was the only program I looked at.
I think MBA program in general, looking at the average work experience, it just lined up well with my background. About 5 years is the average work experience. So obviously there's a huge range there, but a lot of those other programs are aimed towards more senior leaders in various companies or executives. So MBA is a good kind of solid mid-range in terms of experience degree.
So I guess just kind of to piggyback on what Andy said a little bit, I think on this panel, I'm one of the older people, not necessarily compared to the age bracket of the fellows. I think it's also important to note, to Andy's point, you don't feel out of place if you are on the older side, if you are in the full-time MBA program. So it truly just depends on what your goals are and what your priorities are. I think that's why we thought that the full-time MBA program was the best fit for us, and why we didn't pursue some of the other offerings that were available.
That's a great point, Kate. Thanks. And I didn't mean to imply that I felt old here. I don't. In fact, I love it. And if I had to do it over again, I would definitely choose the MBA again. So great. Aaron from Boston has a question, and the question is, what is it like working with the administration as a veteran here at MIT? There's another question about the acceptance rate for veterans, which I don't think our panel is able to answer, but we can certainly talk about the administration and what it's like working with them here at Sloan.
I can take this one. So I've had some interactions with a few different offices across MIT, not just Sloan, and I'll say it was seamless for me. I actually had my interview while I was working overseas, so I couldn't stop in for the interview or the admit weekend. Maybe some of you out there are currently deployed or will be deployed during those times. And I'll just say that it was very easy for me. I did not at any time feel like there was a lack of information coming my way. Everyone was very accessible and made me feel welcome into the process. And that just reinforced what opinion I already have of Sloan being a great place for people to come and grow and be accepted in. And I think the staff and the faculty lived up to that reputation during that time for me.
I want to add a piece that I think really pertains to the active duty side, but I don't know what you guys can add as well about VA benefits. I would say that the finance office here has been phenomenal because you can't always control when whomever is paying your tuition is actually physically going to do it. And I would say that they're great with working with vets and understanding the predicaments that some of us are in and trying to help us as best as they can. That's been great for me personally on the active duty side. I don't know if any of you guys have similar experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Even down to like GI Bill benefits, very flexible in terms of the timing of the payment side, very understanding of just the entire process. They're well experienced dealing with veterans and very accommodating. It's been great.
And I think similar line of with the administration and the help they're giving us is the other Sloanies too. Veterans have been exceptional. I think Vets Club is very strong in this school, and it's been a valuable resource just when they're retired or need to relax and talk about something other than business. So it's been helpful to have as well.
Hey, thanks, Ozzy. I just want to note, Barrett's got another engagement. Thanks for coming. If you guys want to ask Barrett any more questions, feel free to email the vets, the MIT Vets Officers email account, and we'll be glad to put you in touch with Barrett. He's going to answer any more questions you might have.
Absolutely.
All right,
Yes.
and thanks, Barrett. All right. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm taking over for Barrett. I'm Turner Holthouse. I'm also a first-year MBA student. I spent 5 years in the Army as a military intelligence officer, and I'm heading to JP Morgan to do investment banking this summer.
Hey, that's a great intro. And I'm wondering, Turner, can you tell us a little bit about finance at MIT Sloan?
Yes. So, one of the things that drew me to MIT, and I know we all have different reasons, and I'm sure we'll get into it more, but was my ability to focus in on what I wanted to do going forward. And I can answer more specific questions about that later. However, at MIT, knowing I wanted to go into finance, I've been able to tailor my schedule to be very finance focused. So it's given me the support through the administration, through the faculty, and through my classmates that are also focused on that career path as like a full circle 365 help network. So it's been really, really, I feel successful so far, and it's, I have no complaints or I wouldn't do anything different.
Does anyone else have any areas of specialty that they're focusing on while they're here at Sloan? Turner's focusing on finance. Does anyone else have something they're really honing in on or that they found since they came to Sloan?
I can talk about the entrepreneurship side because I hadn't originally considered entrepreneurship to be a primary focus before coming here. I had a little bit of interest in it, but I'd say that the program here really pulled me into it. Number one, that you have the E&I track, which is mostly a very powerful networking tool. You're surrounded by 120 other students that are also interested in entrepreneurship. If you're at all interested in building a company or being involved in that early stage startup environment, that's where you're going to find your co-founders, be exposed to venture capitalists, and get that mentorship. I would say it's a growing program. I would say it's absolutely a wonderful kickstart, and it is the only reason why I'm in the position where I am now as a co-founder of a small company.
Thanks, Randy. We have another question from John who wants to know, are there any on-campus visits scheduled this year hosted by vets? And I can basically answer that we do Ambassadors Day in conjunction with the admissions department twice a year. We've already had the spring one this year, but we'd be very glad to discuss Sloan with you. And if you're in the Boston area, if you reach out to us at MIT Sloan, we'd be more than happy to meet with you, to give you a tour, and to show you around. and to link you up with the with anyone else at MIT that you might want to talk to. So great. Anyone else have any comments about areas of expertise? In fact, sort of building on what you guys were talking about, MIT has a really unique culture of different courses and being very open across the lines. Have any of you taken classes at a school outside of MIT while you've been here? Okay, well, I guess I primed my own question because I'm taking classes over at the Real Estate Center. MIT has a real estate development program, and one of the great things that I love about Sloan is that the core curriculum is only 1 semester long. It's a great semester. You learn a ton about business, but then for the following 3 semesters, you can really do whatever you want, including taking a number of classes outside of the business school. As all of you know, there are a few universities in the world that have the resources and offerings of MIT, and I've really been able to take advantage of it. And one of my particular areas of interest outside of consulting is real estate. And because MIT has this fabulous real estate school and urban planning school, I've been able to take courses over there with those graduate students, and I'm planning to take more across MIT next year as well. So think about that.
So I guess one thing we could also add, we talked about the finance track. I'm pursuing both the finance track and also the sustainability certificate. We talked about the entrepreneurship and innovation. Is anybody doing enterprise management?
Yeah, so I'm taking the enterprise management track, and that's more just in response to corporations outside Sloan wanted to see more kind of the general management type of background. And through that track, I was able to work with a technology out of MIT main campus. I don't even know what it's like thinking about that stuff, but it was a photonics detector. And so we had to explore market opportunities in oil and gas and then go from there. And it was a very broad subject, but it was interesting to get this kind of nebulous problem and then try to solve it in a semester. We worked with 3 other people and then the PhDs over there and the lead scientist. And that experience was invaluable because it wasn't just this chalkboard solution that was handed to us for my case. It was a real world problem and with real world consequences. And it was pretty rewarding to see.
So then the sustainability certificate, there's kind of similar things to what Ozzy was just talking about. There are some mandatory classes that you need to take, and the kind of pinnacle one is called S-Lab or Sustainability Lab. So you do the same sort of thing. You're paired up with a company that's either here in the region, which is what my company was, or it could also be somewhere else around the country. And they bring forth the sustainability problem, and you would basically 4 other folks on your team work to really kind of get a stronghold around it. This can be a great experience for multiple reasons. First of all, it gives you that awesome opportunity, Ozzy said. But second, it kind of gives you the opportunity to look at this problem that maybe they've looked at for a really long time and just kind of get a new perspective and a new set of eyes on it. So you can use the tools that you've learned in the classroom to immediately try to affect change in that organization.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to change gears a little bit right now. I would like to talk about MIT Sloan's Veterans Club. We know that they increase opportunities for veterans, provide resources, mentorship, networking, and leadership opportunities. Can you tell us a little bit about how you participate in the Vets Club and some examples of leadership roles on campus that you're involved with, either it's with the Vets Club or another club?
I can start with that. But in terms of the Vets Club, as some of the panels already mentioned, it's a very active community. So whether it's meeting up before bigger school events or if it's having lunches put together, that's like one of the on-campus ways we get to see each other and have interactions, but also it's through different events that we host. So the Veterans Club hosts a myriad of different events throughout Boston, where we all link up outside of school. And so there's a ton of those opportunities, but I also want to bring in, I'm from the investment banking club, so I have that opportunity outside of the Veterans Club. And there's a lot of overlap between club functions and what their directions and purposes are. But for specific focuses on career development, the Veterans Club is almost all around because everybody's looking at different styles or different types of careers, whereas something like the investment banking club is very focused. So you have a good mix of, and there is no requirement on how many clubs you can join or anything else. So if you're interested in a career specific, or you want to have more like a social club with the social support as the Veterans Club is, either way, MIT has these opportunities for you.
So my involvement with the Vets Club actually started before I applied to Sloan. Probably like many of you, I just emailed the Vets Club address and got a response, and was able to talk to someone about any questions that I had, or they walked me through the admissions process, or even gave me some advice on how to make my application more competitive than it already was. And since I've come to Sloan, I've just tried to pay that forward and answer emails, or even meet with students from other schools that are thinking about applying to Sloan that happen to be in the Boston area, and showing them around campus, again, answering any questions. So I don't have a leadership billet in the club itself, but I do take on small responsibilities in that way. And I think that is probably the lifeblood of the Vets Club, is just us helping each other and helping prospective students make the right decision to come here. As far as other clubs around Sloan, I am involved in a club that helps put on the Sloan Sports Analytics Conference. That was an awesome experience. I got to meet quite a few big names in the sports industry, which was really cool. You can learn more about that on the Entertainment, Media, and Sports Club page. And beyond that, I'm looking at starting an automotive and mobility club, which will hopefully be up and running by the time some of you come here. So if you have interests outside of the Vets Club, certainly pursue those. If you have interests outside of clubs that currently exist, you have the opportunity to start a club.
Cool. Hey, I'm going to jump in here because Aaron has asked us. Aaron's going to be here from the 17th to the 23rd for MBA hunting. Aaron, we'd love, if anybody's around, to meet up with you. I'm going to give you guys our email address, so please feel free to email us, and we'd be glad to talk to you. It's vets, that's VETS, .officers@sloangroups.mit.edu. And again, that's vets.officers@sloangroups.mit.edu. Shoot us an email, or go ahead and visit our Veterans Association page on the MIT Sloan webpage. And you can email us through a link on that website as well, and we'll be glad to get in touch with you. Now, I'd like to move over to Anthony's question. He's asking, for those of you who've left the military, which is everybody except one of you, what advice do you have for the transition process? Anything that you would recommend for the admissions process in terms of, like, how did you start? Did you take the GMAT? Did you take the GRE? And maybe, did you go with, one of these, groups that helps military officers transition to business school? So take it away.
I can say the biggest advice I have, and I wish I would have done more of this, was what you're all doing right now is looking and researching earlier. I waited a little longer, and I should have started earlier, and it was really important for me to understand the different MBA programs and what each one had to offer. And then more importantly was, who did I see myself fitting in with the best? I realized that atop all these top tier MBA programs, you're getting, great educations, but it's also, who did I want to sit in class with, all day, every day? And who did I want to have those social interactions with? And that's really what brought me ultimately to MIT. But that was really from the research I did prior to the admissions process really even starting. So before the application was submitted, it was all of the research I was doing prior. So that'd be my biggest advice.
I would agree with Turner's point. You want to start early and give yourself time to actually see the campuses. I didn't. I was in Japan. I didn't take the time to travel back to the US. I, as a result, was unable to fully comprehend some of the social differences between the campuses. It took me actually going later in the game before I applied round 3 to MIT to actually be able to understand some of the differences. So I definitely recommend that you want to give yourself time to go visit the schools. Number 2, start the GMAT early. Do yourself a favor. I waited. Again, a mistake. It's harder than you think, or at least it was for me. You want to be able to put yourself into a competitive bracket, and you don't want to be pushing the deadlines because of your GMAT score. You want to have that time focused on your essays and thinking through that process.
Absolutely. And then another thing to take advantage of too is a lot of these companies will offer seminars or really workshops to go out, and they'll pay for all expense paid to really learn about transitioning into the private sector. I know you took part in one, Turner, and I took part in Deloitte's core. And they were really, I thought it was a good experience to really learn about kind of industry in general and what to expect on the outside of the military going forward.
So I guess I know that I'm the one that this question doesn't apply to, but to talk about the GMAT versus the GRE, here at Sloan or at MIT, you can report either of them. So take that into consideration. Like was mentioned, the GMAT's tough, so is the GRE, but you might do better in one than the other. So maybe take both.
And I would say, and Randy, you touched on this, was if you're not ready, like submit the best application possible. And I know a lot of people struggle with that of like, I think my GMAT's okay or it's in line, but it's a whole picture that you're trying to paint to admissions. So if you don't feel it's as strong as it can be, it may be worth pushing from round 1 to round 2. And that's exactly what I did because I didn't have the strongest application in my mind. And that took a lot of like self-reflection to say, I really just want this process to be over with. This is miserable. And I ended up extending it to be longer. But in the end, it was a solid service to myself, and I got to learn more about the school. I actually got to attend a veterans ambassadors program at campus, and that was ultimately what made me decide, if I was lucky enough to be accepted, what would bring me here. So just wait till you have the strongest applications possible, and don't try to rush it and think that it will be okay.
Even in round 3, I mean, I went through that same debate. Is round 3 even a remote possibility of getting in? But it does happen. It absolutely happens. Quite a few folks in this class are coming out of round 3. So if you feel that you're not comfortable with your application to round 2, weigh the pros and cons. But I would recommend to wait if you feel like you're not ready. Apply round 3. Even if you don't get in, it will help you in round 1. In my opinion, it shows your strength of interest if you have to apply the following year.
Yeah, so I don't know if everybody said, what rounds did you guys apply in? I know, Randy, you said round 3. Turner, you were round 2. What about everybody else? 2?
1.
1?
2.
2, I was 1. So clearly we've got vets across the board from every round. So don't feel discouraged if you don't get round 1. I think that said, often the admissions committee will say, apply when you're ready. And if you're ready for round 1, I think it's a good idea to get in early and apply early. Moving on, some of us have heard about these things that Sloan we call C functions. I wonder if you guys could tell us a little bit about C functions and how they factor into the first year experience.
So C functions are cultural functions that I think is open to everyone, like even beyond the MIT community, right? But mostly put on by Sloan. And it is a few-hour event during Thursday nights that gives people exposure to a culture maybe they haven't experienced before through food and music and sometimes like dancing or some type of show. I know Randy hosted, he was the MC for the Japan function night of events, right? Which was pretty entertaining. But it's a pretty good time. It's a good place to learn about a culture that you may not know something about. It's a great time to socialize with other students in your program and across other programs and maybe some of their significant others or families or whatever. And it's a good way to kind of get out of the classroom and get to know people that you see every day on a different level. And really, I think it helps solidify the social interactions that you have with students in a different way.
Yeah, I was very lucky. I mean, I joined the Japan Club very early, even as a non-native Japanese. I was able to take an active role in essentially their main showcase where they introduce themselves to the community. And they put me in a leading position. It goes back to one of Andy's earlier questions about, club activities and how open and collaborative this environment is. So it was a wonderful opportunity, and it does give us all a chance to see the different cultural clubs and give them a chance to present themselves to the community.
So I just want to kind of list off what C functions we've had so far, right? Japan function, East Asia or South Asia, Brazil, Israel, US America,
Swim.
swim, that's right, LGBT, right?
Latency function.
Latency function. So time. Yeah, there are quite a few.
It's part of the Sloan experience that they try to make sure that you have social interactions outside of the classroom too. So there's constantly functions being put on and gatherings, whether it's a C function or multiple other career events or other networking functions, etc. But these are more like focused on the cultural side of it versus a career specific or some other business specific side.
Thanks, Turner. Okay, I'd like to transition to transitions. We talked a minute ago about transitioning from the military to school. I'd like to know a little bit more about transitioning careers. So coming from a career in the military, going to a career outside of the military, or perhaps going to a different functional career within the military. And I'd like to know, what are some of the resources that students use here at MIT to help with that transition from one career field, in particular the military, to another?
Yeah, I think everyone's used the Career Development Office. The CDO, I don't know if Andy has put out information about this, but that office has really helped a lot of students, myself in particular, with things like resume preparation, interview preparation. The sessions that students have during the first semester on Fridays helped me anyway get a more clear picture of what I was looking for in a career and maybe some good ideas for me to explore during the internship recruiting season. So the Career Development Office, I think, is a great way for people to, I guess, get a better picture of where they're going and be a competitive candidate in doing so.
Hey, I'd like to get some other answers to that, but Sean, while we're on you, we do have a follow-up from Aaron in Boston asking if NCOs can be considered to join the Officers Club. I just want to clarify, vets officers, that's just officers for the MIT Sloan Club. It doesn't mean we were all officers in the military, in fact.
Yeah, I think my application is still pending.
Sean came up through the enlisted ranks of the military.
Right, so I got out as a sergeant, and I believe that I'm the only enlisted person in our year of the program right now. That's not to say that it's more difficult for enlisted to get admitted. I think that maybe more of a function of just the number of applications that Sloan receives. So if you're out there and you're enlisted and you really want to get an MBA and you want to come here, by all means apply. Don't feel intimidated. There's a lot that enlisted folks have to offer. And even though, we were all in the military, all of you know that different branches have different experiences and enlisted and officers have different experiences and different expertise in some things. And I think that really plays well into Sloan trying to build, again, the diverse student body. So absolutely apply. And as far as the Officers Club thing, yeah, just an
It's for anybody.
Yeah, just
Thanks.
the club leadership.
Thank you, Sean. So who else has any comment about CDO or maybe any other resources at MIT Sloan that helped you with your pivot to another career field?
I use the alumni mentoring service quite a bit. You can reach out to Sloan alumni directly through LinkedIn. You will get a response, is my experience. But I actually use something specifically called the Alumni Mentoring Service. I believe that's the acronym, AMS. And it connects you directly to Sloanies, former Sloanies, that are actively seeking people to advise. And I had 100% response rate, have really two great mentors that have been out of Sloan for years in the fields that I'm looking to transition to. It allows me to get a perspective a little from outside the veterans group. It allows me to bounce some ideas off of more senior folks that don't come from a military background and understand where they see my weaknesses and what I need to improve on as coming from a non-traditional veteran background. So I would say the alumni mentoring service was a very useful tool for me in that transition.
And I think on top of that too, just your fellow classmates, they're coming from industry and all the backgrounds too. So if you're interested in something, there's a classmate who's done it. And it's nice to kind of get that inside scoop. And usually that classmate's transitioning out of that and wants to do something different. So you get kind of that other side of the coin and see what they didn't like about it as well.
And for our one member who's going back to service in the military, Kate, you had a job from day one when you came in here that you were going to pursue after your time at Sloan. How have your experiences at Sloan prepared you for that new role you're going to take on in the Coast Guard?
So unlike some of the other folks that are active duty here, I didn't know what my job was going to be until this past February. So I specifically pursued the finance track because I knew it was going to set me up well for whatever finance role I was going to be going back to. Bouncing off of what Ozzy just said, I was able to really leverage the expertise of my classmates to try to figure out what I wanted to do, and then also finance track to focus on things that were more accounting focused that I thought were going to help me more than, say, investment banking or something like that. So I think that that's what helped me the most here.
Cool. So we've got a question from Anthony right now, who's a current MIT Sloan student. What advice do you guys have for writing a military resume? And can the club help with a review and feedback?
I can start with that, and back to my point of like just doing your homework beforehand and trying to research all these MBA programs. Like you should, if you're a veteran, I would highly encourage you to reach out to the Veterans Club. And we've all gone through this process, and we've all been in your shoes. So having that connection with the current student that literally just went through this, biggest benefits that the club can provide. So reviewing your resume, translating a lot of your OER, MCOER bullet points that a lot of people just want to copy paste into the resume. It doesn't really translate that well. The action does, your result does, all that translates, but it's the specific wording that may get individuals lost. So the Veterans Club can easily scan through that and help you strengthen and improve a lot of your resume. And even like if it's something as simple as like a template, you're looking for the MIT Sloan template, we can provide you with that.
Great. I'd like to ask you a little bit about mentorship. Mentorship comes in lots of different forms, and I'd like to know, what opportunities for mentors have you found here at Sloan, whether it's with faculty, other students, pilots, or somewhere else within the MIT community?
So I'm actually in the process of seeking out a mentor right now. It happens to be a faculty member that is currently researching something that I'm very interested in pursuing myself, not so much as a career, but just as a personal interest. I just established contact with this person a few days ago, and it's kind of unclear about whether I'll be able to build that relationship over the summer, or if this will be something better served in person during the fall and next year. But any opportunity that you would like to have, I think is there. If you have a question and want to reach out to a professor or someone that works for the school, in my experience, everyone has been very accessible and very willing to help. And I think that speaks again to the collaborative nature. I know we're like beating this point, but it's true. It's not a gimmick, and I think that the mentorship that I seek out, I'm very excited to get started with.
So this may be kind of the opposite side of Andy's question. So I was a pilot this past year. Basically a pilot, it's all second year students who volunteer to help the first years through, at minimum, the orientation process here at Sloan. And it's truly an amazing opportunity because, only a year ago, we were in the exact same spot, meeting everybody, trying to figure out what the heck was going on. Of a pilot, you can do as much or as little as you want, and as much or as little as the core team that you are piloting wants. So for me, I think it was a lot more of a loose mentorship role, and by mentor, that's probably even a stretch. This past year, we did some dinners, and then just gave some recommendations for classes, how many points to bid. So basically just that experience of being a second year, just trying to give some insights to the first years. So super informal.
And in terms of peer mentorship, can one of you guys talk about your experience with your core team and what a core team is and how it helped you get through the first semester at Sloan?
Yeah, so the core team is a group of 6 to 7 classmates that you pretty much do every single project with that first semester during core. And they're handpicked. You're all handpicked to be together, to work together, based on backgrounds. And so my own core team, we had 3 international students, one from India, Taiwan, and Brazil, and then 4 Americans. One was an LGO. So it was just this crazy background, people coming from fintech and engineering and just all over the place. And it was really rewarding kind of see everyone work together and to see what we all brought to the table. Kind of going in, I was just assumed I would bring 0 to the table and just kind of be able to hang back and not have to do anything. But it turns out like we have a valuable experience to add to that, and a lot of things that maybe our classmates haven't seen. And the core team's kind of your first chance to really test out the waters and see how it's going to be received. And I was considering my background very non-traditional too, and so it was interesting to see the curiosity that your core team had, and you pretty much do everything with them. So they're your first, I would say, group of friends.
Hey, Ozzy, what's fintech?
Financial technology. That's the maker.
The skill sets and industries across the core team is very diverse. At one point, I was interested in doing fintech recruiting. I had my finance guy in my core team, sat down with him, went through mock interviews. The relationship persists beyond that first semester. We remain friends. We have monthly get-togethers as a core team even now. So it is a real relationship. These people are on your team, there for you when you need it. You need advice.
And even from the second year perspective, so we're almost done. We met 2 weeks ago as an entire core team, and then some of us were able to meet up last week as well. So it persists way further than even just the first year.
So I'd like to ask you a little more about the social experience at Sloan. I know some of you have spouses, boyfriends, girlfriends. It's called, at Sloan, we affectionately call them SOs, short for significant other. What is Sloan like for your SOs, and how have they, been able to join the MIT Sloan community?
I can start off. I'm married. We're married. I have a dog, and I think my wife has more friends here than I do, to be honest. She's involved with every single aspect of every single experience at Sloan. So all the C functions she can go to. Really, she can do as much or as little as she wants to here, and it's a very collaborative and inviting community that the Sloan SOs also have. And it began, I did what's called a pre-function before we came to Sloan. So I went to Iceland with a group of 27 of my classmates now, and we never met each other. We just all knew we were going to be first-year MBAs. We all met in Iceland, and a lot of our spouses had come. So before we even got to the program, my wife and I already had a big group of friends, and that was outside of the classroom before we even started like the academic work and the career hunt. So from my wife's perspective and my family's perspective, she and myself are involved in everything.
Yeah, and my wife as well. She's super involved. She's actually one of the co-presidents of the SO Club. And we live on campus, so it was she was forced to be involved, and it's been a really amazing experience for her as well. I second, she has more friends than I do. In fact, Turner's wife and my wife are really good friends, and so we see each other a lot based on that. And it's been nice to see that she's such an integral part of the community and valued as well.
Great. Okay, so I'd like to ask you a little bit more about, now that you have the benefit of almost a full year, or in Kate's case, almost a full MBA program under your belt, is there anything that, looking back, you wish you had done to prepare for an MBA program, or did you feel like, you were set with the decisions you made coming into the MBA program?
I'll kick it off. In hindsight, I really wish I would have, it sounds like sort of lazy, but I wish I would have vacationed more right before I came in. I had just gotten out of the Army, and then I had to move all summer. I got to spend some time with my wife, but then I got here and it was just full go. And not to mean that we don't have like plenty of time to reflect and go have dinners and everything else, but it goes fast. Like I can't believe this year is almost over. And so just before I came into here, I was really stressed about, let me make sure I'm up to, on my econ and on my statistics and, finance. I just want to be like prepared for the first day of class. And I think I worried too much about that versus just enjoying the time that I had before the program would start. And once you're at Sloan, like, they're going to take care of you. They're going to make sure you're succeeding, regardless of how you feel you're doing.
I agree with Turner that you want to take some time before the school year to relax. Absolutely, it's going to be rough when you get, not rough, but busy when you get here. But if you do have the time and you are ahead, I'm very glad that I took the time to do an online, essentially a pre-MBA. MIT might get pissed at me for saying this, but I used the Harvard Businesses Online program. 3 classes, econ, stats, I forget the third, but it's a good basic run through the concepts, made core semester much easier for me. I had time to breathe, I understood the concepts that we were going through. So if you have the time, I know it was helpful for me, consider some kind of pre-course that will get you up to speed if you didn't do business or econ in college.
So for the complete opposite of what Randy just said, I really wish I did. So I was an operations research and computer analysis major, but I had graduated 8 years before starting. So I thought I was set for the statistics class and realized I wasn't. I'd never done accounting before, and I think that although the core team was great and my classmates were great and everybody was super helpful, I really wish I did what he said because it would have made me a lot less stressed.
To caveat though, we do get, Sloan will send out when if you're accepted and you're prepared, you do get 3 online courses to take. And I did take those and made accounting a lot easier, and accounting, econ, and it's specifically statistics, econ, and accounting. So you will have that opportunity to take that.
And does your core team help fill in the gaps, any knowledge gaps you might have? And were you able to help fill in gaps on your core team?
Yes.
They will if you need, but of course it's a function of time. Every time is precious. And ideally, you don't need to sit down with someone to go over every single concept. But if you do need them, they're of course there. They were for me. It's just that old time debate.
Hey, can you tell me something about Kendall Square and where MIT Sloan is located?
Yeah, I can take that one. So I actually live in Kendall, about a 5-minute walk from Sloan. Sloan is located basically on the water. It's in a beautiful part of town, and the setting that you get to look out from the window and see every day is pretty great. Kendall itself is a nice, clean area. It tends to be quieter at night. But it's close enough to things like downtown Boston or Central, which is more of the college town type area. You can easily get to those areas if you want to go to them, but for the most part, I think Kendall is a pretty reserved, very smart, like feeling neighborhood. Everything's new. I don't know how else to describe it. It's like new. It's like hip. There's some nice restaurants. There's some cool places to go within a short walk of Sloan, and I think Sloan is probably one of the marquee buildings in the area. It's definitely one of the most attractive looking buildings, I think. And like I said, living close to campus has just been like super convenient for me. So yeah, I think Kendall's a great location for those of you who are concerned about what there is to do outside of school or MIT affiliated things. Boston, Cambridge is a really great place to be.
How walkable or livable is this area if you don't have a car?
I don't have a car or bike or rollerblades. I'm the perfect person to answer this question, I think. I just have a T-Pass that I bought at a subsidized price through MIT for a semester, and that allows me access to basically anywhere in the city or surrounding areas. So it's extremely walkable during May to November. November to May, when there's a bit more snow on the ground, still very walkable, but again, you're in Boston, so you're gonna have to deal with some weather. But as far as like, neighborhood safety or, distance to things like the T-Stop, it's all very easily accessible.
Cool. So MIT has this really unique period after the holidays called IAP. Does anyone want to talk a little bit about what IAP is and how it's maybe a little bit different from your traditional 2-semester format at other schools?
Sure. So January is, as Andy mentioned, innovation activity period, my understanding, or it could be independence activity. Most first-year students use it for one of two things. One, by far, is recruiting. So a lot of your main industry recruiting occurs during that January period. Consulting, investment banking, you're allowed the time and freedom to focus completely on that. So that's the first use. The second use is students that aren't recruiting for those industries have an opportunity to do something that's called an externship, which is shorter. It's 3 to 4 weeks, working with any variety of companies in these very small compressed internships. So you can get some experience in maybe in an industry that you're interested in, but you don't want to devote your entire summer internship. That's my understanding of how most first years use that January period. Maybe you can talk to whether it's a little different on the second year.
Sure. So I'd also like to add, you can use it for vacationing if you don't want to be here. If you'd like, you know, my husband is not located up here, so I maximize my time away from campus when it's not mandatory class periods. But there's also some really awesome classes that are available on campus, and then also different lab classes. G Lab is the one that comes to mind. I don't know what the G stands for, Global Lab. And so basically you have a semester long course, and then you go generally to a really amazing country during the IAP period, and you're able to basically execute all of the work that you've been building up for the semester. So that's another super amazing opportunity that people are able to take advantage of. And I'd like to make a plug for the, I think it's an amazing opportunity. The vets actually put on a course during the January term. It's called Leadership Lessons Learned from the Military. So it's cool to be Andy back in. He's the one that spearheaded it this past year. I had the opportunity last year to take part as well. And it's when you go to school with so many smart people, and you know you learn from all of these people all the time, being able to actually feel like the subject matter expert and share your expertise with people is just an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, thanks, Kate. I'll add, it's a great program, and you know, it's really something special that MIT does that allows a student group to teach a 4-credit class. It's one of the most popular courses at Sloan during the IAP period, and we have really heavy involvement with the Vets Club every year. You get credit for participating whether you take the course or help to teach the course, and it's really a great way to foster that sort of cross-cultural communication between, you know, students who don't know a lot about the military and students coming from a military background. So we have about 5 minutes left. I'd like to touch a little bit on what recruiting is like in the fall for vets before we have closing thoughts. And specifically, I'd like to know, you know, what recruiting opportunities for veterans are here at Sloan in terms of connecting with companies, and has the veteran community helped you guys in terms of finding your jobs?
So I think vets actually have probably more of an advantage in this regard than other diversification groups around campus. I went through consulting recruiting in the fall, which was like another class, but I got to learn a lot about consulting and visit these companies. And being associated with the Vets Club and being a veteran paid huge dividends during those months. It offered me exclusive opportunities to meet with representatives from companies that were hiring interns. It gave us access, if you're involved in the Vets Club, to vets that have done recruiting for that specific industry before, or maybe have worked in that industry or for a specific company that you're interested in. So I think recruiting is a busy time. It's a great time to explore different careers. It's amazing for what the Vets Club can offer in terms of giving you a leg up. Not that you're competing with classmates, because you definitely are not competing, but you're competing with someone, right? So you want every advantage you can get, and the Vets Club and the companies that work with MIT Sloan taking advantage of the Vets Club really helped me out a lot.
Absolutely, and just the consulting side, again, you got to meet veterans at the companies over happy hours, and it was very informal. it was a good way just to kind of relax and talk about the process and get a kind of behind the scenes look about the rest of it kind of going forward. And that was huge. Definitely gave you a leg up. Yeah, just because the networking and being able to tell a better story about what you were.
And I'll throw on, as a veteran too, you'll be privy to events that are exclusively for veteran communities, so that look out for those. They're not always at the same time or random, but there are a lot of these companies, consulting, banking. Those are the two that I know of, but there's multiple other tech, other industries that will focus on veteran recruiting specifically. So you'll be invited or privy to these events that are specifically targeting veterans, and they want you to be comfortable in associating with those types of companies and realizing what they do and being able to ask and connect with veterans at their company. So if anything, they go above and beyond what I expected before I came here, what companies would actually do for them.
I was actually interviewed by veterans during my interviews for internships. So not that that makes it any easier to get hired, because it doesn't, but it does, I think, make it easier to explain your resume to someone that may understand whatever acronyms or experiences you may have had in the military. So in that way too, it definitely helps to be associated with this community, within this community.
Great, thanks guys. So we have a couple minutes left. I'd just like to end with everybody, tell us what is one thing that you love about MIT?
I can begin, and I know we've hit on it a ton, but it's the collaboration aspect. There's not, we have a class size of 400, and there's another 400 second years, and I feel like I can almost, know everybody by name. I have interactions with almost every single person, whether it's in the hallways or in classes. Even though 400 might sound intimidating or like a large number, it feels like 30. It's such a close-knit community. You see everybody in the hallways all the time. So, that's one of the things that it's hard to quantify or anything like when you're reading through blogs or missions web pages, but it's true when you are here.
Yeah, and kind of on top of that too, just the people. Everyone's so interesting and smart and fun, and it's really nice to be able to just have such a good group of people around you. And I think I've really benefited from that.
The number and caliber of startup ideas floating around in conversation, in hallways, in the cafeteria, in class, at C functions, is just, it doesn't stop. And it's really, really cool to be even a fly on the wall for things like that, but to be in the conversation and to be in a place where you actually have the knowledge and the means to make something out of those ideas is really special to me.
I agree with a lot of the previous comments. For me, in addition to that, it's a world-class institution being this close to cutting-edge technology. There is no better place to be exposed to photovoltaics, or the leading autonomous vehicle specialists are here, and my company is working with those people. There's nowhere else I could get that kind of access. That's what, for me, differentiates MIT and Sloan over any other institution.
So going last, basically everything I would want to say was taken. So I'll add on the amazing opportunity to be in the classroom and be taught by Nobel laureates. It's kind of a big deal. And these folks here, they just seem like people. And I think that not only are the students humble, but a lot of the professors are really humble too. And that makes the classroom environment all that much more amazing.
Hey, thanks everybody. We just really want to thank you for joining us and spending a little bit of your afternoon with us. We'd love to keep the conversation going after we sign off here in just a minute. So please, email us at vets.officers@sloangroups.mit.edu. Check out our website at mitsloanvets.org, and reach out to the admissions committee or anybody at Sloan. We're more than happy to chat with you. Have a great day. Thanks.
Good luck.
Thanks, guys.